This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is our final episode on the island nation of Nauru. In our first episode, we followed Nauru from tropical paradise to the land of phosphate strip mining and through World War II, where Nauru did not have a good time. Now we pick up in the 1960s, when Australia decides to give the Nauru people their independence at long last. 1966. Nauru officially becomes self-governing, and after 2 years of hammering out a constitution, they officially become their own nation in 1968 under founding president Hammer de Robert. Which, Hammer de Robert translates to Hammer the Robert, I guess. I tried.
You know what? I respect the effort. I respect.
Hey, you miss 100% of the swings you don't take.
You absolutely do. The great Antonio touch anything.
Yep, exactly. By the time Nauru... Tune into our Great Antonio episode for more on that. By the time Nauru gained independence in 1968, more than 35 million metric tons of phosphate has left its shores. Enough phosphate to fill up dump trucks parked end-to-end from New York to LA and back again. Also, by this point, 1/3 of Nauru had been strip mined, and by this point, nobody lived in that central plateau anymore. Everybody just kind of lived in this tiny little ring around the coast where the one main road went around. But now, Nauru was once again in the hand of its people, the rightful owners of the land. They looked upon their scarred island, shed a tear, and then said, Now is the time we rebuild and heal our homeland. Now we restore Nauru to its beautiful former glory. Just kidding. They decided to buy up the mines and equipment and start up the publicly owned Nauru Phosphate Corporation and crank up the mining to 11. Actually, it wasn't a corporation. It was a publicly owned thingy. Owned by the Nauru people. And since this mining company was owned by the Nauru people now, they would all get a cut of the profits. And this would, for a time, make Nauru one of the richest countries in the world. In fact, like the second richest country in the world. And many, many people in Nauru profited from this greatly. Nauru actually wound up having one of the highest incomes per capita at the time, if anywhere in the world, because of this.
Oh yeah, let's see about that.
Yeah.
All rich, look at these richie, whoa.
Yeah. And what actually kind of happened is, like, right after gaining independence in 1968, as soon as the Nauru government took over the mining operations, phosphate prices actually jumped from $10 per ton to over $65 a ton in the 1970s. That meant that during that time, Nauru's per capita gross domestic product topped $50,000, second only to Saudi Arabia. For comparison, the USA gross domestic product was only $7,800.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, right. Nauru was making over 5 times the money America was per capita. And I tried looking up what a gross domestic product is really, and basically it's just an amalgamation of everything on how your economy is doing, it sounds like. Higher numbers are better. But it's kind of hard to get them to actually break it down into, like, easy, simple terms. But
yeah, fair.
Suffice to say, yeah, it's kind of one of those, well, it's a combination of their imports with their exports minus their tariff taxes, and when you add this and that, and it's like, well, whatever. And also, this whole thing was basically comparable to the Kuwait oil boom that happened back in the day, where a country gets stupid rich and so do its people. And unfortunately, when you get stupid rich, you get kind of stupid too. Because there's a lot of stories about how the Nauruans kind of wound up with more money than they knew what to do with. And people pulled an MC Hammer and just assumed that the gravy train with biscuits wheels would never stop rolling. There's stories people like to share about, not necessarily with pride anymore either, but, people buying $1 worth of candy or a pack of cigarettes, paying with a $50 bill and just being like, nah, keep the change, Opening your wallet and a $20 bill falls out and you don't even bother to bend over and pick it up because that's only a 20. Why would I do that?
Right.
Yeah, in fact, there's even one famous story on the island of a police chief who ordered himself a Ferrari. When the sports car got there, he found that he was too fat to fit behind the steering wheel, so he just abandoned the car on the spot. He was like, screw it, I'll just get a truck or something. In fact, sports cars and luxury cars became the norm on the island. Everybody wanted one, even though you can pretty much drive all the way around to the island in about 45 minutes or so. Apparently, if you haul ass, maybe about 20. Yeah, I know. And as you saw in that video too, as those cars kind of broke down and they couldn't find parts for them, they just sort of parked them on the side of the road and just left them there.
I mean, nothing lasts forever. But apparently, they didn't think about that or didn't
They
care.
were hoping the money would outlast their lives, I'm guessing is what it was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was like, well, I'll be dead before this all blows up in my face.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So while the Nauruan people were foolish with their money, the government was aware of the time that the phosphate was fleeting and they were going to run out eventually. And with that in mind, they actually started investing all their newfound wealth. First and smartly, they actually invested in their own people. They gave them free healthcare, good social security, free schooling was given. If you wanted to go to school in Australia, they'd pay your entire way there. Hey, here's a plane ticket. Here's your tuition. Go do it. Have fun. The government also subsidized utilities and rent to such an extent that usually the rent and power and electricity for everybody was only about $5 a month. Even the food was subsidized by the government to the point where meat and produce was cheaper on Nauru than it was in Australia where it came from because the government was just paying up so much of it.
Huh.
That's just kind of, yeah. And also because the Nauru government had all the money, they basically were like, hey, you're a Nauruan citizen, come get a job with the government. No skills, we don't care. We will find something for you to do and we will pay you very well and give you like 2-3 hour lunch breaks, work 6 hours a day kind of stuff. So basically everybody was just like, hey, I'll just go get a super cushy job pushing pencil at the government. And also by the same token, didn't really want to work? Well, you didn't really have to because I guess unemployment was super easy to get and also paid pretty well. So either you could have a desk job to keep yourself busy or you could literally just kind of just sit around and just be like, this is good.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a common Nauru phrase that kind of encapsulates this time period where it's tomorrow will take care of itself. In a way,
no,
well, actually, in a way, it does take care of itself. It just might not be in the way you want it to.
Right. Oh, yeah. Very true.
Yeah. So
it's just
that's
like,
kind of those.
If all humanity dies, the end. No, there, it's gonna be just fine. You know, like we may all be dead in the dirt and hell. There might even be like a vast desert that covers, but the planet itself will be like, well, I guess I'll go through this for a while, and who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Coyotes will be ruling everything for a little while, and yeah. There was actually George Carlin had a bit about that where he's just like, don't worry about the planet. The planet's going to be fine in the long run. You got to worry about what's on it.
True.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, the planet is just kind of a big rock with stuff on it. Huh. Did you know that if you shrunk down the Earth to the size of a pool ball, it would be just as smooth feeling as a pool ball?
I did not know that.
Yeah, apparently. And yeah, that's just how tiny our mountains are and stuff compared to the size of our thing. Yeah, anyways. It would also feel just as dry, too, because I guess the water on our surface is just so minuscule. Anywho, I thought that was kind of one of those neat things.
Very neat.
Yep, very neat. Learning is fun. So for outside investments, the Nauru government invested in other phosphate mines in other countries. Stick with what you know, I guess. They decided that airstrip the Japanese built right away for the World War II, they decided to build that back up and use it for a Nauruan airline. They actually wound up with 7 planes in the Nauruan airline. We'll get back to that in just a moment, how well that went over for them, because, a little tiny island with a 7-plane fleet. Seems kind of weird.
It does seem weird.
Yeah, they also started Nauruan cruise lines and got themselves a cruise ship. Which, I don't know, I feel like I never hear about cruise ships making money. It seems like if I ever hear cruise ships in the news, it's always bad stuff.
Well, I mean, they are awful.
Yeah.
To be fair, they there's like mobile polluters. They're one of the worst things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, humanity's doing pretty bad things in the ocean in general, but like they're really doing it.
Yeah, and if you ever look up how much fuel it takes to move one of those things like 100 feet, it's just so stupid. Like 100 gallons of fuel just to move it a few feet kind of thing or something like that. Whatever. They also invested in apartment and commercial real estate, and they bought up some real estate all over the world, including some hotels and some commercial buildings, like the Grand Pacific Hotel in Fiji and the Pacific House here in Washington, which is a hotel, I think. And I've actually heard of the Pacific House. I don't know what I've heard about it, but I've heard about it. They also invest in skyscrapers in Australia and London and such, which, I don't know, that seems like decent investments. Real estate tends to go up. However, one downside about having all this money is it attracted all sorts of grifters who saw Nauru as the proverbial mule with a spinning wheel, and they were about to sell Nauru as many monorails as they could, or whatever scam they had in mind. That's a Simpsons reference. Yep. A small town with a lot of money is a lot like a mule with a spinning wheel. No one can figure out where he got it, and darned if he knows what to do with it. Monorail. That's the actual line from the Simpsons, too. Yeah.
It's so dumb, but it's also perfect.
Yeah, it happens a lot, too. Kind of happened with Nauru, too, actually. One deal that Nauru got roped into was when their government was convinced to invest $2.5 million American dollars, or about $5 million in today's money, into a musical titled Leonardo the Musical, A Portrait of Love. This was a Broadway musical about Leonardo da Vinci being commissioned to paint the Mona Lisa, who he basically falls in love with Mona Lisa, but she's betrothed to a mobile man and nobleman and yada
Oh, it's
yada.
a
so
mobile man?
Yeah, that came out wrong. A nobleman.
Wait,
Yes.
far be it from me to like try to mock anybody for saying something just stuttering, but it still threw me up like a mobile man.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a drifter, but high class.
Yeah. Oh, a high class drifter. I ride railroads with a top hat.
Ha! I'm a mobile man.
When I fight, I throw phones at people because I'm a mobile man.
Kind of like the shoe, but with the phone. Flap.
I also walk around with that thing and you blow and it spins because I'm a mobile man. My hat has. Okay, I'm done. I'm not these.
Okay. 3 hours later, I have.
I'm a mobile. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna kill you over again. I'll kill you, resurrect you, just so I can choke the life out of you one more time.
It's the only punishment that's fitting for this kind of crap. Anyways, apparently that Broadway play sucked, and its run ended in 5 weeks, losing all the Nauru investment in the process. The play was 4 hours long, and I guess by the end of the first performance they ever did, most of the crowd had left. Not a good sign. I guess there is one scene where Leonardo da Vinci smacks Mona Lisa's butt and gives her a wing and asks her to help him with his research.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? I found one review on it that said it was more run-of-the-mill than reeking, a passable, gawky love story with some catchy tunes. The article with that review is called Fertilizer Island Since Musical Success. First Night, Leonardo. So yeah, they just flat out called it Fertilizer Island, Nauru. And then they used scents like smelling scents, so they just saw fertilizer and assumed it stunk. I don't know. Yeah, it's boo, lazy writing.
Let's kill them, even if they're not
already
dead.
Make a time machine back to 1993.
They may very well be gone, but let's get them.
Also in 1993, Nauru settled a landmark international legal case in which Australia agreed to pay 107 million Australian dollars in reparation for those colonial era mining mismanagements. This provided substantial funds for the environmental restoration project called the Nauru Rehabilitation Corporation, or the NRC. So, that Nauru Airlines, from 1975 to 1987, the airline lost so much money that their losses totaled 1/3 of the nation's phosphate income. So basically, 1/3 of all their income. Yeah, right. Basically, for the reasons you would think too, they had a little small area, is based out in Nauru. Most of their flights wound up just like puttering off empty, or with the flight crew actually outnumbering the passengers on the plane.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah,
it's just like it reminds me when I go to a store. If I go to a store, if there are more employees than there are anybody else in there, I like that one anymore. That's when I go, especially from one of the stores where like they get commission for helping you. There's like,
and they start following you around, like a Best Buy or something like that, and you just got a trail of people like following you around like little baby ducks, and you're like, yeah.
I want you to not be anywhere close to me when I don't need you, and I need you to be right there when I do. Like, I know that's stupid. I know, and coming from a retail person, like I understand the frustration on the other end of that, especially since I used to sell furniture, and which is full commission. Like I didn't get salary or base pay. It was full commission, so my pay depended on me, like selling to these people. So I made sure I was far back enough, but I could still clock them, and you're
an earshot away. So if you heard them mutter something like, "I like that one," you can be like, "Ah."
Yeah,
it's time for a salesman to show up.
Hello, man. I hated selling. I was decent at it. I hated it. But the one thing I always say is like, man, it's just. I remember trying to sell a mattress once, and I was just straight up wrong. Like I sold this mattress, and hopefully none of them hear me, but whatever. I sold a mattress I sold this mattress as it's a coiled mattress. An individual pocket of coil mattress has some memory foam on top. It's 800 pocket of coils for a queen, which is actually not bad. Like that 800 pocket of coils is the very bare minimum you would want on a queen mattress. Any more than that is a plus. After a certain amount, you're getting ridiculous. But 800 is a good mattress. I sold this mattress for a year this way, maybe even more. And just before we sold the mattress off the floor, I looked at it again and actually paid attention. It was a memory foam mattress, period. There were no coils in it whatsoever. And I had sold a lot of these. I'm like, whoops. This is a full memory foam mattress that I've been selling as a coil mattress, and I got it all wrong. It was still a decent mattress, don't get me wrong. I wasn't selling a shit mattress. It was still like, quality wise, it was on par with the 800 coil mattress. So it wasn't like I cheated them. I was just saying wrong what was in it.
There's probably some interesting Yelp reviews from around that time on that Macy's.
Well, to be fair though, they laid on it. They liked it, so I didn't cheat
that is
them.
true.
I was just I was as honest as I thought it was. They got a decent mattress. I was just totally wrong. How it was
they
made.
were happy with the deal. You were happy with the deal. Everything's fine. Scrooge McDuck economics.
And I was just thinking that. Like they got their quarter. They walked away happy. So
capitalism. It works. You just justify things.
Right.
So now you have a taste of the Scrooge McDuck mentality.
Damn straight.
Oh yeah, one also problem too with the Nauru Airlines. Well, not a problem, but the Nauru people got free flights on it, but that costs money because that eats up extra fuel and stuff. But also, there's time that the president would decide he wanted to take a flight somewhere for a joyride, and he wouldn't just hop on there for a joyride. He would literally cancel everybody's flight so he'd have the plane to himself. So people that wanted to fly would just be like, "Your flight was canceled because the president wanted to go jerk off somewhere." And that'd be very irritating. Yeah, that's not great customer service there. So, boo on you, president of Nauru at the time.
I mean, but again, it's such a small nation. What do you get it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. No.
Well, not just not
shake your fist and complain.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all you can do. I'm sure he has his thugs. I imagine him like the rich guy from Roadhouse.
There's our Roadhouse, so yeah.
Well, whatever.
So your point is moot.
Stereotypical 80s action movie bad guy.
Gotcha. Did he wear a pinky ring? Almost all 80s bad guys wore a pinky ring.
Yeah, I'm sure he absolutely did.
That's how you know they're bad guys. If members only jacket, pinky ring, or goatee. One of those three.
Well, he was an older guy, and the way they introduced it was this is how he just ruled the town. He was in his fancy car, and he was driving down a 2-lane road, a back road, and he was swerving between lanes carelessly, just knowingly taking up all the road. And Patrick Swayze, our hero, is coming the other direction, and he gets forced off the road because he doesn't want to nail this guy, and the guy doesn't even turn to look at him. He keeps on going. It's like, yeah, do. I mean, I don't know.
Southern guy who runs a town with an iron fist. So he's like Doug Dimmadome. Isn't that guy from...
Well, he wasn't a Southern guy. It was almost like he came in from somewhere else. He was one of those things.
That makes him even more evil. Yeah. From New York City.
And, Patrick Swayze came in. He was the lead bouncer of this bar. It was the worst bar in America.
Yeah, I know the gist. I've seen tiny little clips. I've probably seen enough clips that I know the entire movie.
But my two favorite parts is one where he rips a guy's throat out, and two, at the end of it, the bad guys had, I don't know, the worst bad guy. He was the fat guy. He was kind of dumpy. He was the bad guys, but he was a coward. At the very end of the movie, they go through and wipe out all the bad guy gang except for the fat guy. Now, up to this point, the fat guy was still a bad guy. And then the cops came in, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we found her this way, right, Bob?" And Bob's standing there. He just everyone. All his friends are dead, and he just goes, "Yep, they're all dead when we got here." Way to go, Bob. You know how. That's how you got this far. You know which way you picked up the wind and you went that way. That's how you lived this long.
Bravo.
Right.
Okay, I do kind of remember that movie. Patrick Swayze rips out the dude's throat and the guy's dying. He's like, "Nobody puts baby in a corner." Then he goes off and dances with that chick while covered in blood. I do know this.
You know what? Why not?
That is how Roadhouse ends in my mind now. Remember the Grand Pacific Hotel in Fiji that was bought? Well, they had great plans for it. They shut it down for renovation to make it the nicest hotel in the world. Sat forever, never got renovated, and finally they just had to sell it at a loss. And the government workers, they were also embezzling a lot of money left and right, too. Apparently, corruption was just rampant in their government. All sorts of politicians were like, "Hey, I've got good ideas for money," and it just wind up in their accounts, or they just disappear with millions of dollars. Yeah.
Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse. So, yeah, not really great times there. And basically, as they started losing more and more money too, they started having to sell off more and more assets. They had to start selling off planes, cruise ships, hotels, eventually losing most of their investments. And as their phosphate went down, they were like, we got to come up with new ways to make money. So in the 90s, they decided that they have one good idea on making money: loose banking regulations. Why, yeah, turns out for just $25,000, you could start your own bank in Nauru, and you didn't even have to be a citizen or even show up in person to do it. You could all do it by mail. And then once you own your own bank, there's all sorts of fun little loopholes and stuff you can do, if you know how to do them. The Russian mafia laundered $70 billion through that country during this time. And so did Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups, too. Nauru also decided to offer super easy and cheap diplomatic passports to whoever wanted them for just a few $1,000s. Not just any passports, though, diplomatic passports. Which, according to one of the Lethal Weapon movies, means you can literally do anything you want with no repercussions.
Yeah, but what is there to do there? Like, oh, he broke the law. Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you can also do, I think they were selling them for any country you wanted, though, kind of thing.
Okay.
You're a diplomat from Nauru, and you're going to this country or whatever.
I see you now.
Yeah. You're not very clever in doing illegal things, Nate.
No, not stuff like. Well, the way.
How dare you live your life letter to the law?
You fool!
All this malarkey started to irritate some of the world leaders, and in 2002, using the powers of the Patriot Act, the USA showed up to Nauru and essentially said, "Yeah, we get it. We get what you're doing here. Illegal stuff is fun. It's profitable. We do it all the time. But your stuff is starting to profit our enemies, so knock it off, or you're gonna have a really tough time as a country coming up." And, basically America said that if you don't knock this off, we're going to make it illegal for any American company to do business with you ever. Nauru was bummed, but agreed.
They were pumped. Yeah. What a bummer. Oh, man, you guys suck.
Yeah. One of the fallouts of this was essentially their whole banking system crumbling and dying. And credit cards aren't accepted on the island because of this. There's ATM machines that... So everything's cash only. You got to hit up the ATM machine, and apparently the ATMs run out of money a lot because they're only restocked every so often. So if you go to Nauru, bring a lot of cash. So Nauru's economy has taken a huge hit, and they have sold off all their foreign investments. The bank is closed, and their economy is failing hard. Their gross domestic product is down 90%, and the per capita income is about $2,800 now. The government didn't have the money to pay its employees, so government checks ran a couple of months behind, and since the majority of the people had government jobs, this was not good. At this point, 90% of the people were either unemployed or working for the government. And like I said, so basically you're either getting no money or your check was way behind if you're an employable guy. Also, it should be noted now, 80% of the island is now destroyed and uninhabitable due to phosphate mining. One thing the government has been able to do to make some money in the meantime, however, is they get pretty good money licensing their waters to international fishermen for skipjack tuna fishing. In fact, the area around Nauru catches an annual of 50,000 tons of tuna. I assume that's a lot of tuna?
Oh, it has to be, surely.
In 2004, income from the phosphate export was only $640,000. Income from the tuna licensing was $3 million, so that shows you how far phosphate has fallen. 2001, financial salvation in the form of refugees show up for Nauru. So, off the coast of Australia appears a cargo ship full of refugees from Afghanistan and Iran. The ship captain picked them up off a derelict vessel, and maritime law stated very clearly that ship captain's duty was to take them to the nearest port and drop them off. This was Australia. Australia's flat out said, we ain't taking any of those people in. Captain of the cargo ship would not budge because he was just following his maritime law duty. Big standoff, ship sitting there in port, Australia saying, no, we ain't taking them, him saying, we're going to take these. International incident. Then all of a sudden, Australian government had an idea. Let's build detention camps on some islands and send them there. Hey, any of you islands out there want some money in exchange for housing refugee camps? And Nauru shot up their hands and said, oh, hell yeah, we could use some money. Send them out over here. Manus Island and Papua New Guinea also got into the action on this too, but they're not the ones we're talking about. This whole setup would be known as the Pacific Solution, which doesn't exactly sound wholesome, does it?
It does not.
Yeah. You're going to use
like
the Pacific
something,
Solution.
Something solution? That's never...
Yeah. Unless the earlier terms are like clear eyewash solution or something like that. But
right. You never want, when it comes to people, there to be a solution.
By the way, the Nauru people weren't exactly thrilled with their government's decision at this point, so there were some protests being like, this isn't cool. We don't want a detention center on our island. But things went ahead anyways. So Australia dumps $20 million into a detention camp on Nauru that's going to house 800 refugees, and they plan on putting another $10 million into the island and expand it to 1,200 refugees as needed. So apparently they're expecting quite a few refugees. However, by 2005, they only had 32 detainees there. By 2007, another 100 or so showed up. And then, amongst protests and claims of human rights violation, the camp was finally shut down in 2008. 2012, and detention camp is opened right back up by the Australian government, and it's busier than ever. By August of 2014, there are 1,233 detainees at the camp. So apparently originally this camp was supposed to be full of like nice little climate controlled cabins with air conditioning and little kitchenettes and this and that. Pretty nice little setup, but what by and large happened is most of the people wound up just getting plastic tents and little like tin huts, little tin pop-up huts that were really not good for that hot, humid tropic climate of Nauru. Real soon cries of human rights violations came out and more protests. Refugees would go on hunger strikes, and some even were little kids going on hunger strikes like 10 years old. 2013 saw a riot that caused $60 million of damages in that camp. So, to try to cover up some of their personal shame going out at the time, like the detention camps and the mines, in January 2014, the Nauru government announced it was raising the cost of a media visa to the island from $200 to $8,000, and it's non-refundable if the visa is not granted. Al Jazeera, ABC, and The Guardian have all stated that they've tried to get media visas and absolutely no success. We go up to 2016, and 23-year-old Iranian man known as Omid, O-M-I-D. He had been at the Nauru Detention Center for 3 years now. He's not enjoying his time, and he gets news that he's going to be there for at least another 2 years. He decides to make a statement about how much he does not like this by dousing himself in flammable liquids and inflammabling himself. The only Nauru hospital was underfunded and was incapable of handling his burns, so he was sent to Australia, where he died. And this this basically shined a huge old spotlight on these Nauru detention camps and put it in the headlines of many, many countries, and protests all over the world actually started happening because of this.
Good.
It's also reported that 30% of the people detained at these camps had attempted suicide.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good look. Because of this and more reasons, the USA basically said, hey, we'll...
Sorry, because of this and more reasons.
Yeah. The USA just said, hey, we'll take a bunch of these refugees if you just shut down these camps and knock it off. So a majority of those people in the camp just got sent off to America, and the camp was shut down again in 2016. 2021, and Australia reopens the camp and signs a new deal to pay Nauru to hold refugees. As of July 31st on 2021, there are 107 refugees on Nauru. So the company that Nauru wasn't really in charge of this detention center. It was Australia was in charge of it, and they put a company called Construct International in charge of the camps, because that always works out well.
Yeah.
So turns out Construct International made a profit of at least $500,000 per detainee in the financial year ending in mid-2021. They figured it out, and by 2022, the Australian government had paid more than $4 million per year for those refugees to be housed in Nauru. All in all, it's believed that Nauru made around $3.3 billion off of Australia housing these camps, or camp. That's not bad income there.
No, not at all. I mean, that's actually pretty...
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, $3.3 billion. I figured it'd been like $100 million or something, but...
Yeah, that is not bad. It's horrible, but also not bad.
Yeah, eventually they did kind of lighten up on the camp a little bit, and I guess the people in detention camp are now allowed to actually kind of like wander around the island. They're not stuck in this tiny little fortified area, so that's nice.
I guess.
Yeah. It's baby steps towards improvement, Nate. All right. Another thing Nauru has been selling since the early 2000s is diplomatic recognition in the UN. Yep, they managed to monetize their UN membership. So, you got yourself a new country forming and need some recognition in the UN? Nauru can help. Want a recognition that you're independent or part of another nation? Nauru can help. So, here's some examples. over in Asia, they got that whole thing that's going on. Like, does China run Taiwan or is Taiwan its own thing? And they've been going back and forth on that since Lord only knows how long.
Right.
Well, basically, literally just to stroke their own ego, Taiwan was giving developmental aid to any poor country willing to get on the world stage and announce, Taiwan is its own independent country. Long live Taiwan. We love Taiwan. Go to hell, China. So, yeah, this was literally just to stoke Taiwan's own ego and be like, hey, look, these countries believe that we're independent. Look. And, it gives them quote unquote credence in their own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And also, on paperwork too, it actually literally is just like, well, it's not a 100-0, it's a 99-1 thing. So in a way, it kind of helps, I guess. Well, China also like to do the same, but they like to pay countries that say Taiwan was part of China and China is the best. And Nauru is happy to say both of these things, and they kind of just flop back and forth between the two countries, being like, hey, Taiwan, you're your own independent thing. Thank you for that check. Hey, China, you want to send us a check? Once that clears, we'll change our opinion. And they flopped back and forth, and I guess China eventually, all in all, has paid them $135 million in aid for doing this, for saying China is great. And WikiLeaks showed that Taiwan was paying the Nauru government ministers a weekly stipend of $5,000 to get them to say that. And that was on top of Taiwan also sending the country humanitarian development aid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so basically all Nauru has to do is just go in front of the union and be like, hey, we got something to say, and then just either say whatever pre-prepared message they got, and, China would send them a check or Taiwan send them a check. Another example of this is Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Ever hear of those countries, Nate?
Never.
Yeah, because they're not really countries, but they're trying to become countries, and Nauru recognizes them as countries. So over there, we got the Republic of Georgia over by Russia, right? So, yes. In the Republic of Georgia, they got two countries trying to break away from them, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. And a big, long civil war going on there. Big, messy. Not going into it too much. Well, basically, Russia really hates Georgia. And one way they can kind of screw over Georgia is by, stoking the fires of this revolution between these three countries. So, basically, Russia sends Nauru a big check to basically be like, hey, guess what? Georgia is no more. Now it's these two countries, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Yay, Russia. Yay, these countries. Screw Georgia. They're in the wrong. And again, this is literally just, puffing your chest and, stroking your own ego. But, yep. In exchange for just basically acknowledging those two countries, Nauru has gotten $50 million in development grants from Putin and Russia over this.
I mean, why not?
Yeah,
it's almost like, I was comical. They're up there on the days, guy walks up, hands him an envelope, and Taiwan is the country. And someone walks up to the other side and hands him an envelope. Like, never did China's the country.
Yep. And Nauru isn't the only country that does it. Places like Nicaragua, Venezuela, all these little countries do that. They need money. And
I'm sure that's true, but just like this one seems to be the most comical, being how small it is. I mean,
yeah, that's basically the joke of it all.
Yeah, it's like
the nation nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah, like the other countries you mentioned, they're I've heard of them, and they actually have some kind of meaning on the world stage. I know this country used to have meaning on the world stage, but that they strip mined the meaning right out of them.
Yep. And for Abkhazia, Nauru not only recognizes them, but they have tight quote unquote diplomatic relations between the two because it helps out both countries in the sense that Nauru can report to their people. It's like, hey, look, we're on the world stage. We're going to foreign countries and hanging out and doing diplomatic things. And same with Abkhazia. It's just posturing so they can be like, we're official. We're having diplomats here.
We mean something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, and along these lines, too, Nauru also helped out Russia by refusing to acknowledge Kosovo when they were trying to get things going as an independent nation. Everybody's else like, yay, we approve you, Kosovo. Nauru was like, no, bad Kosovo. You go back to Russia. So, yeah, and actually, after the, somebody actually interviewed the one of the diplomats from Abkhazia, and they basically had, all the information that I gave him. They're like, so, level with us. Is this really a thing? Do people just send money and just buy UN, recognition or UN votes? He's like, and the diplomat was like, well, duh, dude. That happens everywhere. Everybody does this. People are always giving each other money just to say stupid stuff on the world stage. So, basically, as you can see, there's no such thing as free money to countries. No one's giving away humanitarian aid. It's always a quid pro quo where they're getting something out of the deal. Hey, America just sent $1 billion of aid to a country. Well, that ain't free. We're going to be throwing up a military base there soon enough, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah. Or getting them to vote our way in this or that. We're up to 2020 now. COVID hit, and because they acted fast and shut everything down, they didn't get their first case of COVID until 2022, when they got their first 2 cases of it. However, to show you how fast that spreads, by January 2023, there are 4,621 cases, 11 active cases, and 1 death. So, yeah, it went from being 0 to a lot in a hurry. Like, most of the island, it looks like. Or a portion of it, anyways.
Well, if a portion, that's a significant portion.
Yeah. So now we're kind of towards the end. We're going to look at Nauru in its present state. Right now, they say the island's actual biggest problem is going to be climate change and the rising sea levels, because everybody lives on the coast there, and, well, you know, the coast is at sea level. The more it raises up, the more trouble there's going to be, and since they can't go into the elevated part of it because it's all just completely destroyed from mining, who knows what they're going to have to do there.
I mean, such a fucking pain, or not pain. So sad. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lack of foresight and caring. I mean, because there was foresight for the people coming in and strip mining, but in terms of like, once the fourth invaders, if you will, left, they should have been like, okay, let's try the best we can to maybe reverse this somehow, or if not, like,
find a nice balance between the two or something, or
yeah, we're not gonna fix this tomorrow. This country's pretty fucked right now, but let's try to work together to get this somewhere. And never mind, they're like, nope,
that's what you'd hope. But yeah, they did. I will say, at least it seems like the government tried to do a little bit. I mean, they failed, but at least they were trying. You know,
I mean,
they had some good ideas. Well, they gave like free healthcare, free schooling. Those are good things.
Yes, that I'm 100% behind that. I really do. But, you know, but then again, it's like a broken clock's, you know, right twice a day. You know,
This is
it's
true.
like just because they were doing all this free stuff, what about the rest of it? I mean, obviously,
Well,
it was bad.
Foreign investments, those weren't too bad.
Foreign investments again, even like the banking thing. Like, yeah, it was illegal and bad, sure, but at least they could grow their own fucking food.
Yeah,
this is true. Because that's financial stuff that, you know, ultimately is only really hurting the rich people. So, I don't know. But again, it happened. I mean, what were we going to do?
I don't know. Time machine? If I could turn back time. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.